Hey there, I'm Rami, and it's time to get into year 6 of BrookClan. Now, this year... Oh, what? This? Oh yeah, I'm glad you noticed. My form was getting a little bit old, so I decided to do a little bit of shape-shifting. Nice, isn't it? But anyways, this year in BrookClan, we had some shenanigans happening that may or may not involve murder and the Dark Forest, and we also got to see what I'm considering the quote-unquote next generation grow up. Without saying anything else, let's get into it. First in StarClan this year is Goosewish, who died on Moon 2 at 118 moons old. She was struck by lightning while guarding the cave that BrookClan calls home. Before she died, she continued to be both an excellent hunter and a bit silly, catching loads of fish while making a ton of fish puns. In StarClan, Goosewish seems to be very interested in prophecies and sending messages, so it seems her Omen Seeker trait is still in effect even in the afterlife. Next in StarClan is Hillcrawl, who died on Moon 2 as well, at 28 moons old, and his good speaker trait graduated to the great speaker trait. Hillcrawl was actually murdered, and by someone in the clan, too. I won't reveal who just yet, but I will say that it's someone we know very well, and that there's more going on than what you might first think. In StarClan, Hillcrawl regrets pushing away his friends like Blue Roar, but he's been connecting from cats from both BrookClan and MumbleClan, trying to come to terms with his identity as a MumbleClan-born BrookClan cat. Moving on, next is Barragetail, who died at 65 moons old and also died at Moon 2, though she died to sickness from a tainted rabbit, which was caught by Stakeclaw, of course. In StarClan, she's been contemplating everything she's done in life, and considering if she did everything she wanted to do. She's also been in mild denial about dying, involving herself a lot in the living world and looking at the goings-on to try and feel a bit more alive. For our final Moon 2 death, we have War and Peace, who died at 48 moons old to the same poison that killed Barragetail. Before she died, she changed from responsible to compassionate. This trait seems to have shaped her attitude in StarClan, with her getting involved in things like dreamwalking and wanting to give lives to new leaders. She seems to have found some purpose in ghostly duties, and I'm glad that she's been able to be reunited with most of her children, though she regrets leaving Kinkpaw behind. Finally, we can move out of the Moon 2 deaths. Mintburst died on Moon 3 at 67 moons old, and she also died to the poisoned rabbit. Before she died, she got to see her apprentice Dashpaw graduate on Moon 1, and was incredibly proud of her. She was happy to see that she didn't totally screw up in training her. In StarClan, Mintburst is taking a while to get used to it all, but is happy to just watch from the background. Next is Rookchill, who also died on Moon 3 at 26 moons old. He was found dead near the Eagle Clan border, and we don't really know what happened to him. Just before he died, he received Yarrowkit as an apprentice, and regrets leaving him behind. In StarClan, he's been causing a bit of drama. On Moon 11, he wanted to give a new leader a life, and War and Peace got into a fight with him while Barragetail was interested about him. So I think that Rookchill said that he thinks Apricot Star is a bad leader, and he wants someone else to take over, which War and Peace disagreed with. He does seem to be breaking out of his depression now that he's reconnected with his dad and sister in StarClan, but he does miss his mom. Next up, we have a pair of siblings, Dash Freckle and Crocus Kit, who is a kit from Plumleaf and Badgerpur's latest litter. Crocus Kit died on Moon 4 at 3 moons old and is a charming mossball hunter. She was born susceptible to heat stroke, which led to her dying of heat stroke during a hot spell in the summer. Crocus Kit is incredibly curious about the world, both in life and death, and wants to know more about what's beyond their territory. As for her big sister Dash Freckle, she died of green cough on Moon 11 at 22 moons old. When she graduated on Moon 1 this year, she was honored for her courage, and she became a good kit sitter and a good hunter. During the year, she kept getting dried herbs stuck in her fur, possibly from visiting her brother in the medicine den often. She also really respects outsiders and isn't afraid to talk with them or share prey with those who need it. Additionally, Dash, Freckle, and Batbeam were developing crushes for each other, so she was really sad when she died and was unable to confess since she's a bit of a romantic. Fun fact, she still has her mythic glowing eyes in StarClan, but since the rest of her now glows too, it's not as noticeable. Otherwise, she's been taking care of Crocus Kit in StarClan. This next death is somewhat expected. Triveclaw died this year on Moon 9 at 167 moons old, and she died in her sleep of old age. She was an incredibly respected member of BrookClan, being both popular among young cats as a storyteller and among others as an advisor. However, she's been getting more and more restless, missing her warrior days and wishing she could move like she used to, even fantasizing about running away just to feel alive again. In some ways, she's happy to be in StarClan, as her old vitality has been restored and she can run as much as she wants. She's sad to leave her son and honorary nibblings behind, but she's enjoyed catching up with her old fighting buddy Brindlestripe. Next is Jirachi Fang, a loner who joined this year on Moon 8 after being abandoned by his owners due to sickness. This same sickness claimed his life on Moon 10 when he was 86 moons old. Jirachi Fang was a childish cat with steady paws who was a great climber. He seems to be a pretty happy-go-lucky guy and was friendly to everyone. He's thankful to Apricot Star and Snip Screech for finding him and taking him in, and he's thankful to the medicine cats for treating him as well as they could, even though he didn't make it. He's happy in StarClan, and that's all he really needs. Last in StarClan, we have Gil. He died at 94 moons old on Moon 12, and he was killed by a dog while out on a walk. He managed to make his way back to BrookClan on Moon 2 this year, aided by a rogue that he made friends with, who later joined the clan. He received Ivy Kit as an apprentice, and he was actually a fairly good mentor for her, though he was indisposed for the latter half of her training due to an unfortunate series of injuries. Overall, it actually seems like he's grown more mature and patient since he returned to BrookClan, almost as though now that he has something he cares about and people he feels connected to, he has more reason to protect them and be more mature. When he died, he wanted to be able to comfort the cats grieving him, and his thoughts are more on how this will affect those close to him rather than himself. Now, though we are moving out of StarClan now, we still have another death to cover. Zinnia died on Moon 11 at 87 moons old to an infection, and instead of going to StarClan, she has become the second resident of the Half Moon Strip. Throughout her life, she's grown angrier and angrier, getting almost consumed by rage near the end of her life, and this refusal to let go of anger has blocked her from StarClan. As usual, she had been uncooperative and snappish on patrols and had been isolating herself from anybody else. She almost refused to get help from the medicine den when she fell off a cliff and broke her leg, and only let herself be treated when the infection started to fester. This refusal to be treated actually led to her death. Unfortunately, she'll probably only continue to sink into anger in the Half Moon Strip. Finally, let's get into the living members of BrookClan. First, as usual, is our leader Apricot Star, who is still going strong at 146 moons old and still has 8 lives. She's been taking it easy this year, joining calmer patrols like hunting and herb gathering patrols, and focusing on spending time with the cats in her clan. She also is there to invite 2 new cats into the clan, those being Jirachi Fang and another new cat that I haven't introduced yet. She's beloved by most cats in the clan, and nobody actually dislikes her past just getting annoyed at her sometimes. As she moves into what likely may be her last year or two, she seems content with how she spent her life. She's proud of her daughter and is grateful for her friends and clanmates. Next is Deputy Plumleaf, now 69 moons old, and Badgerpur, now 65 moons old. Sometime during the year, Plumleaf started wearing laurels, which I think that Badgerpur helps her to put on and adjust, which is cute. On Moon 1, Plumleaf had their second litter of kits, Crocus Kit and Pinnacle Kit, who were just regular cats this time, no mystic stuff going on. She and Badgerpur were devastated when Crocus Kit died, and then were hit with Dash Freckles' death later in the year as well. Badgerpur also had his nephew Rookchill die, meaning that he's the only surviving member of that side of the family other than Snip Screech. On patrols, the pair encountered a surprising amount of danger this year and came out on top of it all. First a badger, then a dog, then a rogue ambush. Badgerpur also received Ratweb's daughter Stormkit as an apprentice on Moon 2 and was proud of her when she graduated later in the year. As an authority figure, Plumleaf is seen as a popular choice to be the next leader, and Badgerpur is also a trusted warrior who's well-liked in the clan. There's a good chance that when Plumleaf becomes leader, Badgerpur will be her deputy, though that may end up being frowned on for seeming like favoritism. Flickerpeak is still our head medicine cat, now 151 moons old and refusing to retire. Despite her age, she's still an incredibly competent medicine cat, being pretty successful in treating patients and gathering herbs, as well as successfully training Bluebell Paw, who she's very proud of. Though she was able to take a more background role as a medicine cat while Dahlia Tiger and Peak Iris were still with her in the den, now that it's only her and the much less experienced Bluebell, she's been getting called on more for matters of advising. She's trying to let Bluebell take the lead more so that he knows how to function as a med cat on his own. More than anything, I think she's just mostly tired. Speaking of Bluebell Paw, he is now 23 moons old, strange, very clever, and a learner of lore. He graduated this year on Moon 4 at 15 moons old and took the name Bluebell Blossom, which is really quite the mouthful. An interesting development happened this year with him, which is that I believe he may have a connection with ghosts. He almost seems guided by an unseen force on patrols to find patches of herbs, and at times seems as though he's listening to something that others can't perceive. I think that he can see and hear ghosts, and from that he can receive assistance, but it also leads to him being spacey and distant, and seeming odd to his clanmates. It seems that he doesn't really understand this power either, often spending entire nights staring, unmoving up at the stars, to try and get an inkling of wisdom about what it all means. He also wonders if it's connected to his glowing markings, and if they somehow mark him as a StarClan favored cat. Like last year, he seems to be struggling to find himself, and is only getting more confused with the ghosts that whisper in his ears. With Goosewish dead, the eldest of our warriors is Snip Screech, who is now 102 moons old. They've been an excellent warrior this year, with much of the clan seeing them as a trusted figure and somewhat as a backup deputy. She received Sorrowkit as an apprentice on Moon 2 this year, and took to the role of mentor like a fish to water. She always seemed to know exactly what to say to keep Sorrowpaw motivated and improving himself, and considered herself lucky to have trained him when he graduated. They've also been successful at mediating arguments on patrols, though they can still be a bit hot-headed at times, like when they were seen fighting with a loner, or when they showed off on a patrol and threw off everyone else. Overall, she's been a good pillar in BrookClan. Next is Blissdapple, who is now 97 moons old and really didn't do much of note this year. Really, he's just been a generic warrior, going on patrols and not getting into any big events. He's more just been another body in the warrior den and has been generically helpful throughout the year. He's seen as a cat that you can go to for help with simple things, but not much more. He seems content with the place that he's at in life at the moment, and feels no need to strive for more. Honestly, just a chill dude. After Blissdapple is a new face. Lupine is 88 moons old, thoughtful, and a good speaker, and is the loner who helped Gil find his way home. She first met the clan on Moon 2 when she brought Gil home, but didn't join BrookClan until Moon 3, as she was nervous about the clan cats and their way of life. While in the clan, she's been quite independent, often disregarding clan rules when she believes that they'll hinder her, and generally having a difficult time adjusting. She did continue to grow close to Gil, as he was the only cat she really trusted, so much so that she hissed at anyone trying to come close to his body, refusing to let go of him until it was time for him to be buried. She has made some connections with other cats, such as the huge crush she's developed on Snip Screech. Lupine thinks that Snip Screech is just really cool and capable, and Gil would sometimes tease her about it. I hope that she gets to settle into BrookClan eventually. Next is resident silly boy Chocolate Pudding, who is now 78 moons old and was decidedly not silly this year. And by that I mean he's the one who murdered Hillcrawl. Now there's more to the story than just Chocolate Pudding murdered Hillcrawl. There's actually some good old classic dark forest manipulation going on. Chocolate Pudding had a small altercation with Hillcrawl, which was latched onto by Haven, who is actually progressively deteriorating in the dark forest. Haven stoked his hate higher and higher until one day, when the two were out on the border patrol, they got into an argument. Chocolate Pudding became blinded by rage, and when he became aware again, Hillcrawl's body was there at his feet, with Haven's voice in his ears. I ended up drawing that ending bit of this story, so warning for blood since that's going up on screen. For the rest of the year, Chocolate Pudding has been desperately trying to seem normal to hide what he's done, and has been incredibly jittery and jumpy as a consequence. I'm eager to see how this storyline continues. Now, departing from that more sinister tone, the next cat in the warrior den is a new cat named Jaden, who is 76 moons old, playful, and a trusted advisor. He only just joined the clan on Moon 12 after approaching Apricot Star and Blue Roar on a patrol, so he really doesn't have much to comment on. He was formerly a kitty pet and seems really awed by clan life. He seems especially interested in clan stories, as he joined a patrol where ghost stories were being shared, but other than that, we're really just gonna have to wait and see what he's like. Next is a newly mated couple, Cloverwing, now 70 moons old, and Thornscratch, now 45 moons old. They became mates on Moon 9 this year after Cloverwing had time to process his grief for Gilwhistle. The two work really well together, but they can still be a bit silly with each other at times. After Rookchill died, Cloverwing was assigned as Yarrowpaw's new mentor and did fairly well. He was good at being patient with Yarrowpaw and listening to him, and he seems to be really like that with everyone. Thornscratch, on the other hand, seemed to be very daydreamy for a lot of the year, imagining fantasy lands and what two-legged dens could look like, and wishing he could breathe underwater so that he could explore lakes and rivers. Both of them also seem to be quite good with kits and younger members of the clan, so I wonder if they'll end up having kits of their own someday. But overall, they've been a pretty calm couple. Next is Nakuzo Needle, who is now 68 moons old. He continues to be what I can only really describe as boy failure, though he is starting to recognize that he should be bettering himself if he wants to get anywhere. He's not great at it, mind you, but he is beginning to try. He's been going on more training patrols and learning to help reinforce camp defenses, and he's really been thriving when put into social situations, like meeting other cats at the border. He's still a bit bullheaded, though, and tends not to notice when he's being arrogant or rude. It seems the Apricot Star has noticed his improvement lately because he actually got an apprentice on the last moon of the year. She's hoping that becoming a mentor again, but with the perspective of a couple years of experience, will really help him become his best self. I can't say if it's working quite yet since he's only had his apprentice for a moon, but I'm hoping for the better. Comfrey Talon is next up, and he is now 58 moons old. This year, he continued to help take care of kits, though there were less this year than there were last year. He helped comfort Plumleaf when Crocus Kit died as well. Aside of helping out in the nursery, Comfrey Talon also connected with the elders this year. When he wasn't taking care of kits or out on border patrols, which he went on a lot this year, he could usually be found hanging out with the elders and swapping stories. He's also had an incredibly silly and carefree attitude about him, sunning himself and napping in camp, goofing off during training, and sticking his tongue out at escaped prey. Though he's never let his playfulness get in the way of important work. Overall, he's been a cheerful ball of sunshine. Up next is Blotchfin, now 46 moon old. His leg has healed up well with no complications, luckily, but his hatred of two legs remains. He seems to be very conscious about his appearance, as he's been noted multiple times as having a well-groomed coat, which might just be to impress the cats that he has a crush on. Those being Bluebell Blossom, Chocolate Pudding, and a new cat who hasn't been introduced yet named Spider Moss. His crushes on them are also all reciprocated, so we might end up seeing that become a thing. He's been trying to get to know a couple of the other former kitty pets and loners in the clan, maybe trying to make connections through their shared experiences, but he's mostly been kind of awkward. Something that I find funny was that a lot of the apprentices this year seemed to think Blotchfin was really cool and looked up to him a bit, where he actually has just been generally awkward and nervous most of the time. Moving on from him, next is Blue Roar, who is now 38 moons old and is continuing to be quite cool. She's still maintaining her relationship with her mother, which I think is really cute, but she's been making friends elsewhere, such as the bond that she's forming with Lupine. Recently, however, she's been seeming somewhat bored or wistful, wondering what lies outside of the clans and the surrounding territory, and wondering if BrookClan is where she truly belongs. To sate some of this encroaching wanderlust, she's been picking up stories from farther out into the world, like The Mountain's Shadow, The Bird Who Lost Its Wings, and The Betrayal of the Ravens. And she's been having fun telling these stories to her clanmates. I wonder if she'll try and go on some sort of journey soon, or if she'll stay in BrookClan and satisfy her curiosity by getting news and tales from outsiders. Splash Mask, now 34 moons old, was indisposed for a good chunk of the year as he broke his leg falling off of a cliff, which then got infected and only healed on moon 12, leaving him with a weak leg and a small scar. Interestingly, he's actually become besties with Blue Roar this year. I think that she was the one to help him back to camp after he fell, either because she was on the same patrol or because she heard his calls of distress, and while he was stuck in camp healing, she would visit him often and keep him company. This led to them discovering that they actually got along really well, and are similarly curious about the wider world, and they would swap stories they'd heard. Regarding his mother Chiveclaw's death, he was definitely sad and slept by her one last time during her vigil, but he knew that she was getting old, and mostly hopes that she's happy in StarClan. With the clan as a whole, Splash Mask has matured quite a bit from his jockish apprentice days, and is better at being a team player, though he's still a little bit obnoxious. Next is a new cat, Spider Moss, who is 31 moons old, strict, and a good swimmer. And let me just say, she is so pretty. She joined the clan on moon 4 when she was found looking for her kit, who had been found by the clan and taken in previously. She saw that her kit was well taken care of here, and decided to join to give him a better chance at a better life. She even gave up some prey that she'd hunted for herself and her kit in order to prove to the clan that she was worth having around. In BrookClan, she's been a bit of a loner, feeling sort of out of place among all these cats, though she's joined in on as many clan activities as she can, trying to learn as much about the culture as possible. She tends to get embarrassed and withdraw when she makes a mistake, worried that she'll be thought less of. One cat that she has been bonding with is Blotchfin, who she feels understands her and her struggles. She even returns his crush, though neither has done anything about it yet. She really just wants what's best for her kit, and is willing to do anything to keep him safe. Up next is Shrubshard and Batbeam, now 29 moons old. They're as close as ever, and still share their psychic bond, though I think that Batbeam has a stronger connection to StarClan. Interestingly, they had 2 shared visions this year, one being quite tame, being a vision about Shrubshard getting an apprentice on moon 7, but the other was a warning about Hillcrawl's murder. The vision they received was of a cat standing over Hillcrawl's body, except the cat was tangled in black, rotting vines. They don't know who the culprit is, and they're struggling to figure out what the vines mean. Outside of that, like I said, Shrubshard got an apprentice this year. She got to train the second kit in Plumleaf and Badgerpur's latest litter, and she's doing okay at it. She's been largely non-serious and playful about being a mentor, but she did manage to save her apprentice when she fell in a river. Both sisters have also been bonding with their little brother Sorrow, and showing him that he can be important without their mother's approval. Batbeam has been being quite the quiet romantic, having crushes on 5 cats throughout the year. Most notably, she's had crushes on both Dash Freckle and her sister Nimble. It's a bit funny as both Batbeam and Shrubshard can't seem to stop getting tangled up with Plumleaf and Badgerpur's kits, despite Plumleaf being their mother Stayclaw's mortal enemy, pretty much. After the sisters is a new pair of cats, Mantis and Ibis, who are 25 and 17 moons old respectively. Mantis first joined on Moon 8, and Ibis joined the next moon. Since they're mates, I think that Mantis was checking out the clan to first make sure everything was safe, and when he knew everything was okay, he brought in Ibis. The two are hoping to settle down and grow a family somewhere safe. Mantis, who is lonesome and a talented swimmer, is the more social of the two, despite his trait, and quickly started getting to know the cats of the clan. I think that he enjoys interacting with others, but just prefers to be alone to relax. Ibis, who is thoughtful and a good swimmer, is more graceful and elegant, and tends to help with tasks around camp without question. She's actually the better fighter of the two, however, and Mantis never misses a chance to shower her in compliments for it. Honestly, I think that these two are so sweet and pretty, and I hope they get to build the life they want here in BrookClan. Next is Nimblepaw, now 23 moons old and named Nimblecloud. She graduated on Moon 2 at 13 moons old and was honored for her commitment. She also became clever and got the Steady Paws skill when she graduated. She also received an apprentice later in the year and is a fair mentor. As a warrior, she prefers to do things according to a plan and by the rules. She's very passionate about sticking to protocol, but she also always does what she believes is right, sometimes even tossing aside her rules to help others. She also likes to organize training sessions for her and her friends to keep their skills sharp. Now, I mentioned Batbeam's crush on Nimblecloud earlier, but Nimblecloud also happens to return that crush big time. Whereas her sister Dash Freckle tended to have lots of little crushes with a big one here or there, Nimblecloud fell fast and fell hard. She's absolutely enamored by Batbeam, and I really hope the two get together in the future. Next of the graduating apprentices is the now 22-moon-old Patchpaw, who graduated on Moon 1 at 11 moons old, and was given the name Patchcurrent in honor of her valor. She's now very clever, and she got a neat new scar on her shoulder after saving Ivy Kit, then Ivy Paw, from a hawk on Moon 3, which she likes to subtly show off. She's kept being good at the physical aspects of warrior life, but she's proved to be a bit tactless when dealing with diplomatic matters. She also likes to challenge herself often, training her balance by walking along the edges of cliffs and challenging her clanmates to spars, the second of which is appreciated especially by Nimblecloud. I do think that Hillcrawl's death set her on edge a little bit, as she put her guard up with a lot of the clan cats for a few moons after, and took to watching the entrance of camp. I think that she might suspect that something was off with his death, but doesn't really know for sure. Next is Kinkpaw, now 21 moons old, charismatic, and an incredible runner, and named Kinkhope after his kindness. He came out as genderfawn this year, and now switches between he and they pronouns. They graduated on Moon 8 at 17 moons old after an incredibly stunted apprenticeship. Goosewish was his new mentor after Vax, and when she also died, it set him back further. They finally ended up with Plumleaf as their mentor, but she was also unable to mentor him for various health reasons, so he usually ended up just getting put on patrols with whoever would take him. He worked really hard to graduate, and as a result of having a lot of different teachers, He's got knowledge in several techniques for the skills he needed to learn. This allows them to be more versatile in their skill set. He tries to put on a brave face a lot of the time, trying to seem like everything is under control, but he was super upset at his mom's death. They know that there was nothing they could have done, but they still wonder if StarClan took their family and their mentors away as some sort of punishment for something that they don't know. After King Cope is the first of O'Leary and Brindlestripe's kits, Yarrow Kit, now the 16-moon-old Yarrow Heart. He's ambitious and an unusually strong fighter, and when he graduated on Moon 8, he was honored for his spirit. He was eager to start training when he was apprenticed to Rookchill on Moon 2, so Rookchill took him out hunting for his first patrol to try and teach him how to hunt rabbits. Clearly, it was a bad idea to take a child out to hunt an animal that's the same size as them, because they didn't catch any. Fortunately, Rookchill stuck to patrols that were a bit more his speed after that. In terms of personality, he's a bit of a meathead, but he's very kind and just generally a good person. He tries his best and does what he can to support those in BrookClan, and really, that's enough. The second of the siblings is now Ivy Crest, who is adventurous, a formidable fighter, and a good kit sitter. She was apprenticed and graduated at the same time as her brother, and was honored for her courage. As an apprentice, her mentor was Gil, and while she had a bit of a rebellious phase, she proved to be a prodigy in hunting. She's not as great at other tasks, but she's shaping up to potentially be one of the clan's best hunters. She's not great at social interactions, often having trouble discerning when someone is being sarcastic or is joking, so it sometimes ends up with her being a little bit awkward in conversations. However, outside of her family, she feels the most comfortable with Storm, Ratweb and Vax's daughter. Ivy Crest feels like she's most able to be herself around her, and I think that's really cute. Next is Sorrow Kit, forgotten child of Stake Claw and Haven. He's now named Sorrow Valley, and is strange, very clever, and a prophecy seeker. He was apprenticed to Snipscreech, and honestly, he really benefited from having an adult who was consistent in his life. He broke down on patrols multiple times, saying that he was a failure and that he'd never be a warrior, but each time Snipscreech was able to lift him back up, saying that mistakes are part of everyone's life and challenging him to believe that he deserves to be a warrior. During his apprenticeship, his trait first changed to gloomy, then back to troublesome, then to insecure, before finally settling on strange when he graduated. Speaking of, he graduated on Moon 8 and was honored for his honesty. Sorrow Valley tends to have odd ideas about how to do things, but they work more often than not. His clanmates can find him a bit, strange at times, but he's come so far and I'm proud of him. The last of our warriors for the year is Stormdance, formerly Storm Kit, who is now vengeful with the Ghost Sight skill. She was apprenticed to Badgerpur, and when she graduated on Moon 9 at 13 moons old, she was honored for her intelligence and was given a friendly nudge by Badgerpur as she stepped forward. During her apprenticeship, she first changed to Bloodthirsty, which is very worrying, then became vengeful later. I suppose that she was just excited to get into battle training, and it was more of a lust for battle than a lust for blood, which she later focused into promising retribution for those who hurt those who she loves. Badgerpur did well at tempering her battle lust, but she did get a chance to shine when she, Badgerpur, and Blumleaf were ambushed by rogues, who she fought especially viciously. She has a strong sense of justice and a good work ethic, which does sometimes lead to her seeming abrasive or bossy to others. She and Ivy Crest do fancy each other a bit, though they're sort of dancing around it. Stormdance was actually the one to give Ivy Crest the maple seed she's wearing, which is sweet. Now we can talk about the current apprentices. First is the surviving kit in Plumleaf and Badgerpur's latest litter. This is Pinnacle Paw, who is 11 moons old, insecure, and never sits still. She was apprenticed on Moon 7 to Shrubshard, and it took a bit of coaxing by Badgerpur for her to step forward at her ceremony. On her first patrol, Shrubshard encouraged her to break the rules a bit to try and get her to gain some confidence, but that ended up backfiring as it only made her more anxious about doing the wrong thing, leading to her breaking down twice later in the year. One of the times she confessed to Starrow Valley that she thought she'd never be a warrior, and Starrow Valley, having gone through something very similar in his own apprenticeship, was able to comfort her and get her laughing. She's also dealing with a bit of survivor's guilt, and she wishes that her sister Crocus Kit had been able to grow up with her. Next is Spider Moss's kit, Crowpaw, who is 10 moons old, charismatic, and has an active imagination. He was first apprenticed to Nimblecloud on Moon 8, and for their first patrol, she showed him what dog scent smells like, so that he would know when one was nearby. While Nimblecloud can be quite stilted at times while teaching, Crowpaw is good at figuring out what she's trying to say and is actually picking up skills very well. As for his personality, he's very good with people and can read them really well and knows just how to act to get a certain cat to like him. He's the type of teenagers that old ladies say is so cute and such a little gentleman, and he'd just laugh and compliment them right back. Last in the apprentice den for now is the 6-moon-old Doughpaw, who is charismatic and quick-witted. She was brought into the clan on Moon 10 after being found abandoned as a kit when she was 4 moons old. So I think that her parents ditched her pretty much as soon as she could survive on her own. Her munter is Nakuzo Needle, and on the only patrol she's had so far, he took her hunting, and they had to go home early because they wouldn't be able to carry any more prey. I think that she had some basic hunting skills that she had needed to learn as a kit to survive, so she took well to the techniques that Nakuzo Needle is teaching her. She doesn't seem to be a big fan of fighting, but she's willing to learn if it will help BrookClan, who she considers her new family. Finally, let's visit the Elder's Den. Up first is good old O'Leary, who now is 154 moons old. He's been a bit somber this year, which is probably due to some lingering grief over his mate Brindlestripe. He really doesn't like storms, both because rain makes his joints ache and because storms scare him a lot. He can often be found shaking, curled in his nest during them, sometimes with another elder keeping him company. O'Leary is also super proud of his kits and just loves it when they come to visit, and he loves when they bring their friends around as well. He thinks that they've grown into fantastic cats, and he couldn't care less about what they have or haven't achieved, though their achievements are a nice cherry on top. They can get a bit embarrassed sometimes by how much he praises them, but they love him too. Second is Ratweb, who is now 147 moons old. She retired this year on Moon 4 when she was 139 moons old, and she's definitely been enjoying her retirement so far. She's the type of elder who likes to scare kits with old, spooky stories, making them screech in terror while being completely fixed on the story. She also gets along well with the other elders, especially Chiveclaw while she was still alive. They were a pair of gossip grandmas, constantly chatting in not-so-hushed tones about who likes who or which warriors had the best fighting techniques. When Chiveclaw died, she became someone that O'Leary trusted to lean on, though she still tells him bits of gossip to cheer him up sometimes. Last in the Elder's Den, and in BrookClan in general for the year, is Stateclaw, who is now 141 moons old. Stateclaw retired at 134 moons old on Moon 5. Before then, she caused one last bit of carnage by catching the tainted rabbit that killed Barrage Tail, War and Peace, and Mintburst. She doesn't really care for the others in the Elder's Den, or really for anybody else either, which is honestly to be expected of her. She refuses to tell stories when asked, and spends half her time shredding grass or crushing leaves while muttering to herself. I think that something happened that made Apricot Star put her in the Elder's Den forcefully, as she doesn't seem to be enjoying herself, and is angry that she doesn't have an outlet to release her rage into anymore. And with Stateclaw done, we're now finished with Year 6 of BrookClan. I'm happy with the drama that happened this year, with Haven still being responsible for deaths from beyond the grave, and Chocolate Pudding starting to descend into madness. Since the clan is also getting quite large, I'm interested to see if I'll have to trigger an extinction event if we hit over 2 pages of cats next year. I'd be sad to see some cats go, but it would also be easier if I didn't have to draw close to 40 cats. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, leave some feedback in the comments if you have any, and check out the Discord. Also, if you want to support me, consider taking a look at my Ko-Fi, which is linked below along with the Discord. Now, this new forum has been really fun so far, but now it's time to go.